Okay. Yeah, whenever you're ready.
Alright. Alright, yeah, we'll just pick up from now. Hello, YouTube people of my stream. This is a live podcast. I don't know what I'm going to call it yet, but it'll be in the title. Anyways, I have with me today my good friend here, Lead Speed, Yusei the Synchro Hero, however you may know him as.
Hey everybody, Lead Speed here, and welcome.
Yes, and today we're going to be talking about 6th Gen. So, kind of coming in blind in my perspective, I'm just going to give my general thoughts because I don't really know what's going on yet, but Yusei's kind of been around, played a little bit, so hopefully he can give us a better idea, but I will give you my initial idea, my initial thoughts. So, anyways, where do you think we should start, Yusei?
Well, we could talk about, like, I guess, since we have the tier list, for January, I guess we can kind of see what's new, not really what's new, what's hip, what's hot right now, like, why are people using such things or whatever, and we'll just go from it.
So talk about, like, the official OU tier right now?
Yeah, as it is right now. Like, for example, Rotom Wash is the most used, and that's, like, no surprise there or whatever, but I think with Rotom Wash, I really want to say that it's mainly because of the new, or one of the newest threats to the 6th Gen being Talonflame, because of his hidden ability. Rotom is one of the best answers to a normal Talonflame set. Of course, there is a way to do a Rotom, but we'll get into that later on.
That's a good idea. I mean, I know a lot of people ran Heatran for a while. I don't know how popular Tran is at the moment, but when I've played, a few matches I played, I haven't seen a lot of Heatran. I knew for a while people were running like Stone Edge or Rock Slide on it to actually deal with Talonflame. But, no, Rotom Wash is definitely a good answer, too. I mean, for granted, I don't think it's going to, like, because I use Choice Banded Talonflame. And Choice Banded Talonflame, I think, I know Brave Bird does a butt ton to it.
Well, most people I don't know, the Choice Band set's fun. I think most people are running non-choice sets with, like, Swords Dance even.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people were saying, that now the common sets like Swords Dance, Roost, Bulk Up, whatever.
Because you really can't afford to keep switching out too much without getting your health restored up by a little bit. And plus, you could force switches already, especially if you're put up against, a fighting type like Conch Elder or anything like that. It's easy to just roost, and I mean they can't do all that much damage.
It's true, and not only that, but Gale Wings gives it priority roost too, which can definitely be helpful in certain situations. Like when Scizor comes in to say, like, pick it off with a bullet punch, you can roost and live that bullet punch and then threaten again.
That's true.
I mean,
and I don't know, Talonflame. It's crazy because when I first saw Talonflame, he looks pretty cool, and other PokeTubers were talking about the potential. I mean, we didn't even know what the stats were for this guy, and I mean, when we did find out, he didn't seem all that great. But it wasn't until later on when we found out, he gets Flare Blitz, he gets Brave Bird, and he has a hidden ability in the Friend Safari, as we find out, Gale Wings, and it's like, now all of a sudden he's like one of the biggest threats in the OU metagame, or maybe more or less a check to a lot of threats in the meta, because there's stuff like Conch Elder, which has been getting quite an increase in play because of the Assault Vest item.
I've been meaning to try out Assault Vest Conch.
That's like the most common thing right now.
Yeah, well, I figure, I mean, Conch Elder was always bulky to begin with. Give it something like Assault Vest. I mean, for granted, you don't get Bulk Up, because I know 5th Gen, the Bulk Up Conch Elder set was one of the most common things. But, it's kind of like sack one thing for another, I guess, so to say.
And the thing is, it's hard to set up Bulk Ups, especially when stuff like Talonflame's in the game, and just a lot of things get hit really hard and fast.
Not only that, but just the shift in speed we've seen over the last 2 generations, it's getting kind of mind-blowing. I mean,
it kind of fluctuates between, it seems to have, there's like a lot more bulk kind of stuff going on for the most part, barring stuff like, Greninja, which is meant to be fast, obviously. But when we look at, like, Scizor, with, like, the Mega Evolution of Scizor, it tends to run like a bulky set, and that seems to be, like, the common trend. You're either going to be, like, really fast and trying to get knockouts left and right, or you're going to be, like, maybe running offensive bulk. Maybe you can running a more bulkier Azumarill or something like that.
I was gonna say, well, let's talk about Azu for a minute. Azu getting its nice little fairy buff. This thing's kind of threatening now.
And the thing is, now it has a better secondary stab. Well, it has a very useful secondary stab that it can use defensively and offensively as well. I mean, Dragons being one of the most aggressive types in the game, it's definitely nice to be able to switch into most Dragon types, especially since, you could pretty much like 2-hit KO or Dragonite or something like that. So
yeah, exactly. I mean, what is it? Dweb32 says here that Conk is actually 15 in uses at the moment, so that's pretty interesting, actually. I just kind of figured with the amount of fairy types, well, that's one of the things I want to talk about, actually, fairy typing. I mean, I'll say what I originally was going to say, but I figured with the amount of fairy types running around, Conk wouldn't be as high up there because fighting types this generation, I feel, took like kind of bit of a blow. Well, not
they still do.
I mean,
some of them still do.
Yeah, I mean, but now you got like stuff like Landorus T that's available. This is like Pokebank generation now, but you got like stuff that's Landorus T is available now. You got Gliscor, you got Fairies, you got Sykes.
You got Heatran for Fairies too.
Exactly, but then you also have stuff like Gengar running around, and Gengar deserves its own section to be talked about because I actually used that thing today. So let's talk about that in a minute. But what I was originally going to say after the Conkelder comment about the fairy types is, I am very unsatisfied with how. What's the word the amount of good fairies out there, so to say, I guess is what I'm looking for. I mean, you have stuff like Clefable, and Clefable's good. I mean, I ran specially defensive, and I basically used the Chansey set on it, which it did well, but even stuff like Togekiss, and I don't know if it's because I'm not using Togekiss properly, but I find Togekiss to be very underwhelming, too.
Well, what set were you running for it? I guess it depends on the set too. I've seen a lot of like specially defensive ones.
I was using a specially defensive one. I was using like Wish, Heal Bell,
I don't use
Toxic,
Wish on it.
And
I would, Heal Bell still isn't a bad option. I mean, if you're not using that, you may as well use like freaking Sylveon for that one. So
that's true.
Wanted to do that,
I don't know. I haven't tried Sylveon yet. I'm planning to, but I kind of used it originally because the team I was working with had kind of a fighting weakness, so I figured it'd be better because it was quad resistant, and Sylveon doesn't have the greatest defenses.
Well, it has. Well, the thing is, like, actually, speaking of Sylveon, I guess I could bring this up too because Florges is pretty much in the same category as far as like the purposes. People are like, well, why the heck is Sylveon getting more usage? No, why is Sylveon getting more usage as opposed to something like Florges? I mean, they kind of do the same thing, and in a way, they do. And the thing is, when we look at stats, I noticed that like Sylveon might have a bit more defense. It definitely has more HP, which obviously does help if you want to maybe invest into physical defense, which I choose to. Plus, it has a bit of a higher special attack, so if you're wanting to use the Pixelate Hyper Voice, you're going to do a lot more damage than something like Florges would be able to do, because Florges doesn't have that fantastic of an attacking move pool either, so
yeah, but Florges gets Calm Mind, and wait, I think Sylveon gets Calm Mind.
Sylveon also gets Calm Mind.
Yeah, I was going to say, never
Wish,
mind.
And one gets Heal Bell, one gets Aromatherapy, which are the same.
Yeah.
They both get Moonblast, but Sylveon has Hyper Voice with Pixelate.
Florges also really gets Wish. I think that's just kind of funny to.
And Sylveon gets Wish. They're basically like doing the same thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say they're essentially doing the same thing.
And I mean, I almost just want to say just because more HP and a bit higher physical bulk, and it's Sylveon. I guess Sylveon was kind of popular even before we knew everything there was to know about it anyway. So it just kind of means that it's a popular. It's evolutions. They're awesome and it just happens to be fairy type. So yeah, let's put those together and we got ourselves a fan favorite right there. So can't go wrong with that.
Yeah, that's true. And Sylveon, I mean, I remember when we were just like shiggling around at the start at 6th gen. I mean, even Sylveon in general, we learned from the start was very bulky.
And yeah, that hasn't changed.
Yeah.
But back then we were just trying to determine like what the move pools would kind of be like and whatever.
Yeah. And what is it? Today I made a team with Gengar, and I played a Sylveon. I guess it must have been specially defensive because I was just standard timid max, and I had Sludge Wave or whatever. It did just a little over 50%, and I was sitting there and I was like, oh my god, this thing can just take hits for days.
Mm-hmm.
And then with Leftovers and Wish, and it was just so
I don't know. I haven't given like specially defensive Sylveon like that much of a look. Mainly because she already has a good special defense already, and if I mean I'd rather use Florges for that because she has the base 154. And I mean, yes, Sylveon's got like the base 130. I think putting more in physical defense might be better, especially if you already have a decent, if you have a good special wall to take hits for the Sylveon.
Yeah, I understand that. Well, I mean, it's like I said at the beginning of the generation, and I'm still saying it now. Fairy Steel, that is going to be the backbone to stall cores, defensive cores. I mean, I was using Clefable on Ferrothorn, and it was really hard to break.
I haven't seen too much of that, but I can imagine just because they cover each other's weaknesses very well, especially because the Steel typing is not quite as defensive as it used to be. It still is, but losing the resistances to Ghosted Dark obviously means that
was a
maybe the Fairy type can
blow.
pitch. It does, and especially for Pokemon that used to see a lot of play, and now that either they're not seeing as much play, or maybe they will start seeing more play with the Fairy Core, like Ferrothorn is number 13, so obviously he hasn't dropped that far down.
I don't expect Ferrothorn to come out of OU. Ferrothorn is still a extremely solid choice when you want to pick a Steel type. I mean, it's great typing, great move pool for a supportive Pokemon. I mean, Ferrothorn is essentially everything you can ask for in one Pokemon.
Yeah, and you can even go offensive if you choose, so it pretty much does it all for you.
No, definitely. It's so interesting because I was playing one guy earlier, and again, I had a Gengar on my team, and something I've noticed that comes up more, and I think this will be interesting to see where this goes. Magnozone is getting more attention because Steel is super effective to Fairy, so people are bringing in things with Magnet Pole, in this case Magnozone, which was kind of interesting because I remember last generation people were complaining a lot, or I kept reading how Magnozone was on the cusp of OU, if I remember correctly.
I don't know. Magneton. The thing is, I guess it's just because he may start seeing more play, but at the moment he just doesn't. I don't know. I just haven't seen him all that much. You might see him occasionally, but
keep running into him. It's noticeable. I have a Bisharp on the same team, and it's kind of it makes it really hard for stuff like Bisharp, who's part Steel, who is also in OU, which is something to talk about, I guess, too. But it makes it hard for stuff like Bisharp to set up because, late game, after you get rid of all the stuff that resists, like the fighting types that resist Dark and threaten him out, sucker punches to the face, children.
Yeah, especially since, the thing is, Bisharp was in UU for a while, and yeah, it definitely was probably the biggest threat in the tier, just because the steel nerf, again, we're going to keep going to that was a really crucial hit, especially because now you can't rely on stuff like Metagross to even take a neutral hit, and you can't use stuff like Regis Steel to take a hit and do whatever you like.
No, it's going to be interesting to see how this Steel nerfing plays out over a longer course of time. I mean, the metagame is still really young. I mean, it started I want to say maybe officially now because of Pokebank being released, because now we can use everything, but even, pre-Pokebank, I don't think it was going to see as great an affecting because there were certain things, we just didn't see a lot of. The biggest threats of OU and 5th Gen were, still just sitting there in 5th Gen land.
They just kind of sit there, and even some of them even drop down to you.
Whether
Terrakion. For a short amount of time.
Actually, I think Terrakion got bumped up to BL.
He is
very
BL
recently.
Now. And Thundersterian and the Deoxys duo, basically.
Yeah, let's see. Let's go down to the BL section here.
Because I'm on Showdown right now.
Yeah,
you
same
can
here.
actually see what's there right now, and
Yeah,
we got a lot of things in BL right now. I think that's more than last generation.
This is
the regular BL for.
I think there was only 6 last generation. There was Chansey, Wobbuffet,
Gothitelle,
Staraptor, Gothitelle, and Kyurem.
Frostlass.
And Frostlass. That's all 6 of them.
And actually, Frostlass isn't there yet. Well, people might. I don't know. I guess Well, Frostlass might end up going there next. I don't know. I think it's just because now Deoxys Speed is gone. Well, what's next? What can set up hazards really fast and can spin block all at the same time?
Well, that brings us to the next thing, the Defog buff. I don't think Frostlass will be as potent as it was last generation, just because what Frostlass could do last generation was it could set up 3 layers of spikes on your Rapid Spinner, and you didn't have to worry about your Rapid Spin didn't have to worry about getting spun away.
Your Rapid Spinners are mostly weak to ice. You can scare them away, or you can
exactly
taunt them so they can't set up their own.
Exactly. Well, maybe because Frostlass does have access to taunt, and Frostlass is pretty fast, maybe that'll give it enough. But I think with the amount of defoggers and potentially fast defoggers, Frostlass might not be as potent as it was before.
That's true.
Just because, when you spin block, you can just bring it in, and that's the end. To defog block, you have to bring it in, hope they don't go for defog, then taunt it the next turn to shut it down from defogging.
Well, with that being aside, Deoxys Defense and Deoxy Speed still got banned from UU, even though Defog is a thing. I guess it's just because, you have Defog, but they have Taunt too, and they can taunt your Defog, so you can't even get rid of them, especially if, they predict your Defogger to come in.
Well, it's not even something like that. I mean, let's just look at Deoxys Speed first. We'll break them down one at a time. Let's look at Deoxys Speed first. Deoxys Speed is literally in its own speed tier. There are things with Scarves that can't even outpace Deoxys Speed. And the fact that it's just so fast and it can just get up so many hazards, and not to mention, it has solid bulk and solid attack stat. I mean, for granted, 50 is not the greatest HP number, but still 95 in both attack and special attack. That's enough to actually knock off some things that can, rapid spin, defog, and it's got a great move pool too.
Yeah, and plus, even if you're just running an all-out attacking set, I mean, if you have something else setting up rocks, this has enough coverage to deal with whatever you want it to deal with. And I would almost debate that's what got him banned. Not so much that, we could set up hazards really fast, because in that case, Frostless should go too, because it can pretty much do the same thing. But it's the fact that this has a great offensive move pool too, and the type is, while it's not great, it's good enough for what it needs to do.
No, definitely. And Deoxys Defense, I guess we can move on to him. Deoxys Defense was banned last generation because it was so bulky and it was hard to take down. And it did get up hazards that easy, and it made Hyper Offense last generation literally a nightmare.
Yeah, especially since, you have instant recovery, you could pretty much bring him back in later on. If something threatens you, you can always switch. You could bring in something to deal with that Pokemon.
Exactly. I mean, people started running like lead pursuing T-Tar or crunching T-Tar just to get rid of it, banded. And even lead Scizor wasn't an option because people started running Fire Gem. I used to do that. I used to run Fire Gem Deoxys Defense.
Yeah, it's just like whatever's the most popular anti-Deoxys lead. Let's switch the set around a little bit, and we'll deal with it there.
Exactly.
And then as long as something keeps popping up that's popular, they'll keep changing the setup too.
Exactly. I mean, I think the reason Deoxys Defense went was not so much like Deoxys Speed, who has does still have a great move pool,
offensive presence in a way.
Yeah, offensive presence and blinding speed, but the fact that it's so bulky, it can recover, you can bring it back in, it can take hits, and it can reset up hazards. I think that's one of the reasons it went. Because honestly, something like that running around is pretty hard to deal with. Because the thing is, you can defog something like Deoxys Speed's hazards, and it's going to be very difficult for it to come in safely and set them up again. But with Deoxys Defense, you have multiple chances to do so. Exactly.
So I guess it basically just depends on what you're aiming more for. A faster spiker with a more aggressive move pool that can maybe deal with its counters, or something that's more lasting, but it can't do much back to stuff.
Alright, I'm just kind of going down the beta UU list right now. I guess there's some things I want to personally talk about in here, which is very interesting because, again, we're transitioning through a metagame. If you look in this this new UU, there's a lot of things from last generation's OU which have fallen. Celebi, Gastrodon, Hydreigon. Yep, Hydreigon, Jellicent, Jirachi, Jolteon, Keldeo, Latias.
The biggest.
Metagross, but everyone was bitching about that to start with. And even Vaporeon. Like, all of this stuff falling. It's very interesting to see how...
they're all categorized... I don't know, like, when I look at them, I think they're all categorized... Like, I want to say they're categorized by, like, what's used the most out of them. Like, the Limbo A, I think these are, like, the most used. overall, like obviously when you have Latias, Keldeo, like you see them like all the time. Then you see stuff like, Mega Gardevoir occasionally. I haven't run into it that much, but it's definitely a thing. And then when you see what got banned out of there, some of them I was kind of surprised about, but they made sense to me. I just was surprised because I've never seen them, like Wobbuffet. I literally have not run into Wobbuffet once while I was playing Yu-Gi Beta.
Well, I mean, it's kind of like the 4th gen thing where Wobbuffet was gone to Ubers, but I know 4th gen was different in the sense of, lack of team preview, and Wobbuffet was easy to bring in, and you literally could not do anything, and you didn't even know your opponent had it. So I think that might be part of the reason why Wobbuffet is sitting in BL for now. I mean, who knows? Maybe they will take it down to UU. What? They did that last gen in RU when they took down Cresselia and Durant from BL2. I mean, for granted, Cresselia went back, but Durant stayed for the end of 5th gen, so Durant will be RU forever.
Well, the thing is, what Crez, does in RU, it probably does way too much there. And that's kind of the thing with these BL mods here. They obviously left, well, heck, some of them didn't even last more than a day. Landorus Incarnate didn't even last a day, from what I understand. I didn't get a chance to use them.
That doesn't surprise me. I heard that, like, I don't remember what Pokemon, but there was one Pokemon that was literally banned, like, in 12 hours out of the UU tier.
Might have been Trachean. Because by the time I even knew about him being in the UU, I think he was BL already. So, yeah, that didn't last long. And then same with Staraptor. Because there was like a voting thing going on. There was like a voting thing where, you could vote for stuff to get banned, stuff like that. Like, I actually have it up if I can post it in the stream so other people could see it as well. Mm-hmm. It's interesting because basically they had, the items they vote on for banning, you vote out of like 12 or whatever. They had Chandelure, Chansey, Diggersby, the Gardevoirite, Haxorus, Hydreigon, Jirachi, Keldeo, Metachemite, Knockoff. That's an interesting one.
Wow.
Yes, Knockoff. We'll talk about that next, actually.
Yeah, let's do that.
Staraptor, Terrakion, and Wobbuffet. Now, Knockoff had 3 votes out of 12, so it didn't get it was maybe somewhat close to half, but basically out of the ones that got banned, it's basically Wobbuffet, Terrakion, and Staraptor. They got the most, and they're right behind them, the Gardevoirite and Metachemite.
That doesn't surprise me.
Freaking Knockoff, though.
That's just going to be I think the only thing that's relatively close that you can compare this to would honestly be in 5th gen, back when they did the Baton Pass Shell Smash Complex ban for RU. This is, that's the only thing, but this could be the actual first time we can actually see one legitimate move banned from a tier.
Yeah, I don't agree with it, but I can see why they're doing it, because Knockoff, it's incredible to think that it was a 20 base power move that you may or may not see ever, and then all of a sudden it gets a little buff to 65, and then it gets a 1.5 boost whenever you're knocking an item off of something. It's almost something you could just spam, and there's not much repercussion outside of the fact that it's not as strong after the first hit. So,
well, the same argument could be said about UTurn. Not in the same manner, but, people were saying that, one of the reasons why UTurn was broken, because I remember in 5th gen they actually had a discussion board about it. The reason UTurn was such a broken move was because of the fact that you could click UTurn mindlessly, and you would gain a little damage, if not switching-ish.
Yeah, and the thing is, Scizor being a thing, being pretty slow, so you could usually go second, and plus he pretty much has the strongest U-turn in the game. Then you had Volt Switch too, which you pretty much have Volt Turn. It's pretty much been there since, and it still kind of is there. So,
the only difference between
to add to it.
Volt Switch and U-turn is that U-turn
it can hit
everything. Volt Switch is kind of limited because
it's more limited, but it can hit a lot more things for weakness. That's kind of why Rotom Wash is so good there, because whatever you couldn't hit with Volt Switch, you could probably hit with Hydro Pump. And
probably for super effective.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, Knockoff, I don't know about Knockoff, to be completely honest. Because Knockoff is just kind of weird.
It'll be interesting to see where it falls, because a lot of people, I remember I was team building on the stream yesterday, and a lot of people were saying, oh, you should run Knockoff on this or Knockoff on that, and it's wow, all of a sudden this move actually has a
It has a following.
It has a following. There's a legitimate reason to run it.
Heck, Bisharp basically you could knock shit out with knockoff, or just do a ridiculous amount of damage and knock off Evilites or anything like that. The only thing you can't like knock off are the Megastone items, which obviously if you bring in something like an Aggron with the Aggronite, you basically the item won't come off and it won't do that much damage because the thing is a physically bulky monster. But yeah, that's knockoff and it's ridiculous. I don't know if she get banned, but I understand why they want it banned.
I can see why they put it down on the table.
Mm-hmm. And let's see. They had the Metachamite and Gardevoir. I don't have much to say about the Metachamite or Gardevoir. I mean, obviously I've used Mega Gardevoir quite a few times. And I don't know, like only on a couple occasions do I use it right, but when I use it right, it shows. It freaking shows because I was talking with Naranagi on Skype one day, and he was actually talking about this at one point. How it was kind of like underutilized in OU, and it can actually score some knockouts after, or notable one-hit KOs or two-hit KOs after just one Calm Mind with Timid, by the way.
Oh wow! And
I actually thought, yeah, if you can get one Calm Mind up, you could probably knock out anything that doesn't resist it, or you can maybe two-hit. And plus you have Psyshock too, so you can hit like Chansey, Blissey if they want to try to switch in. And personally, what I love running on Mega Gardevoir is Taunt. You know why? Because against walls, like what can they do? Especially if it's like Chansey, they can go for Seismic Toss, but I don't care. You're not getting a Toxic, you're not getting Wish or anything off.
I actually ran I remember when it first came out, I ran a defensive set. It was specially defensive, but I had like Will-O-Wisp, Taunt, like more of a supportive set, like you were saying, with Wish and whatnot as well, I believe. I can't quite remember the whole set, but I used something like that, and it worked fairly well as a supportive Pokemon. It had a good enough type, I guess, for doing what I was trying to get it to do. As for Metacham, I do have something to say about that. Mega Metacham is a threat. Okay. Point in case. Pure Power, High Jump Kick, Elemental Punches, okay stab.
Yeah, I've seen more people start using a Drain Punch because I mean you have no form of recovery, and Drain Punch can at least restore some of your HP.
No,
especially if you get a knockout on something that is super effective against, and High Jump Kick can miss, and that's pretty fatal if you miss.
Yeah.
Like you can't afford to miss High Jump Kick with it.
No,
I mean, especially if you're not like Mienshao, because Mienshao can at least use Regenerator, to switch out and heal back if you miss on the switch in. Here, you don't have that luxury. You basically need Wish support, or if you're going to use High Jump Kick, just keep in mind the risks.
Yeah. That is definitely a risk versus reward, but still, I mean, Mega Metacham, I think, is going to be interesting to watch it over the next few months, just because base 100 speed, pure power, very solid attack stat. I can't think of it off the top of my head. Let me see if I can just look it up here. Yeah, base 100 backed by pure power. That's nothing to joke at.
It's not in UU. That's actually pretty. In OU, it isn't phenomenal, but in UU, obviously it's really good, especially if you're facing against a lot of stall or something like that, because heck, you could just use it as a wall breaker, not even so much as a sweeper.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's kind of how it's like how people used Staraptor, in that sense. You could just kind of use it in whenever it was allowed in the underused metagame. You just use it as a wall breaker. Nothing can switch into it, and if you have a faster sweeper, they can pretty much pick up whatever. So that's crazy.
I mean, I would almost go to say, to some extent, Mega Metacham, if it stays in UU, and should Manchao come back up to UU, I'm not really seeing Manchao right now as I'm looking through all these, but this thing could potentially give Manchao a run for its money in terms of just sheer power.
Just sheer power.
Just sheer power alone, not necessarily the fact that, you can slap a Choice Scarf on Manchao, and in 5th Gen, a lot would argue that that was like the best Scarfer in the UU tier.
Oh, I see.
But
Champion Fun Kid mentions the Mega Metacham problem being with like Talonflame or whatever, but in UU that's obviously not that's obviously not a thing. But yeah, no, you just can't like sweep anything because it's just like, it's freaking Talonflame. It can pretty much revenge kill any fighting type that pretty much doesn't have a neutrality to it.
Oh, also, someone we just kind of missed here that I guess I wanted to talk about too, Scolipede.
Yes, Scolipede is interesting. He got a lot more of a buff than we'd ever realized.
Yeah, he got speed boost over Quick Feed. I guess Game Freak finally screwed their heads on right with something.
And the thing is, he also gained an attack buff to 100, which base 100 doesn't seem all that high, but when you have the ability to boost it up yourself with Swords Dance and you have speed boost going over a couple turns,
it's kind of like a different version of
Ninjask kind of. It's like a Ninjask if it can sweep.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say it's kind of like a UU Blaziken, so to say. It's just too much once it gets going.
Oh yeah, because Blaziken can do that too.
Well,
yeah,
Blaziken
I guess
did it in OU. That's the only difference.
Yeah, because you can actually do that. But
and Blaziken stab compared to Scolipede is a lot more lethal.
It's a lot more lethal, but in UU at least this is the coverage. I think it's usually like Mega Horn, Rock Slide, and Earthquake. I think you can run Poison Jab as well.
That sounds viable.
It still has. I don't know. There are some things that still can't get past, but you can always just baton pass to something that could take them down, anyways.
Exactly.
And I think that's kind of the problem there because, you have something that can maybe stop my Scolipede sweep. I could just go into something else that's physically oriented to take you out. Especially because you can also just baton pass speed boost to like your Mega Medicham or something. Or your Staraptor or your Trakian or anything. You can baton pass to any of your fast hitting physical attackers and sweep. You don't even need Scolipede for that part.
Yeah. Freebutters178 says, I feel Scolipede should be used more for offensive powers over Baton Pass. I know it has more bulk over Ninjas, but it is not as fast as it. I mean, I guess that's true, but it's like Yusei just said, if you have some kind of physical wall that can stop Scolipede, let me just Baton Pass out into my Special Sweeper or my other thing.
Like maybe you could still run like Mega Horn and Rock Slide. It's decent enough because you can hit like flying types, you can hit fire types.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess the problem there is that you're gonna get walled. You're gonna get walled by something. Oh, I might have needed Earthquake instead.
Yeah,
instead of Rock Slide. But if you have Earthquake, shit, I can't hit this thing.
Well, and if you have
Baton
Pass,
a Baton Pass set, you're gonna get walled by a couple of things.
Yeah, but then you can just Baton Pass out into the appropriate thing.
Exactly. So it just really depends on what you're gonna use it for.
Yeah, exactly.
At that point. Yeah, after 2 speed boosts, no speed matter, says Web 32.
Yeah, you're pretty fast at that point. Exactly. I mean,
I don't know what nature people run for it. Do they run like I want to say adamant just because getting a +2 speed pretty much means you outpace most relevant Scarfers.
Yeah, exactly.
At the very
least. I would imagine. I don't really know. What else should we talk about here? Absol. I'm surprised Absol hasn't hit OU. I just kind of figured with its Mega form. I mean, I know isn't its Megas kind of slow though?
No, it's actually pretty fast if I remember. Let me actually try to pull it up.
115.
It's actually very fast. Here's the problem with Mega Absol, and this is probably the most obvious problem.
It's brittle.
Well, it's very frail. It's pretty frail. 2 problems. It's very obvious, so it's kind of like playing around that. And 2, it's very frail, so getting a free switch in is very difficult. Unless you lead with it, of course, but that's a problem too, because, they're probably just going to expect, like if you have a Smeargle on your team, you're obviously not going to lead with it if you know they got a freaking Mega Absol ready there.
Yeah, ready to bounce back whatever you're going to throw at it.
Exactly. So it just mind games galore, and it still has that mind game thing. But with that aside, it did get like a really handy move in. I think it got play rough. I'm trying to remember. I think it got play rough through.
I think it did too.
Like through egg breeding at least, and that's pretty good. Although I don't think you can have like knockoff with it because that's a Gen 5 move you have to bring over from bank.
Yeah. And
obviously you can't breed those down unless you basically can't.
Yeah, well, I just kind of moved down into Limbo Bead now because we've kind of been talking about Limbo A, and we still got quite a few pokes that we haven't really seen yet, and it's interesting to see where they fall. I guess.
We could bring up like maybe some of the what made like underrated threats there.
Like, what do you mean? Like, what did you have in mind?
Well, as far as, like underseen sweepers or walls that I kind of think that I do think that they're actually quite good. I just haven't seen them that much. I'm talking mainly about like Gorgeist. Gorgeist, I think is like kind of underrated.
Limbo B.
Yeah, I think it could potentially be in Limbo A, or well, if we're assuming that Limbo A is like the most used out of them so far. Mm-hmm. I think Gorgeist could be in there because it has a really good typing. It can pretty much deal with certain physical threats really well. And of course, it gets Spin Block. It has Will-O-Wisp, so you can cripple physical attackers, and there are a lot of physical attackers out there. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't see it being an impossibility for it to see more play, but it just doesn't.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I remember Edgar saying at the start of 6th Gen he was thinking about using it in Ubers, but I don't know if he ever followed through on that or not.
No, I haven't seen anybody try it in Ubers, but actually, I think I want to say Tony did try something like that, but I'm not sure. Mm. He might have tried that, but what it is, I think Gorga is just underrated as far as like being a wall. Yes, I mean, having the grass type can mean that, you have a weakness to flying, you have a weakness to fire.
I mean, I guess that's also another thing, too, is that Gorgeist doesn't resist a whole lot. I mean, off the top of my head, the only thing I could think it actually does resist is water. I think that's it. No, electric. I lied.
Yeah. But, I don't know, I think it could see more play. People are talking about Crawdon.
Ooh, yes! Let's talk about Crawdon.
Crawdon, I want to say it's kind of like in the middle. I think it's potentially underrated, but at the same time, it isn't.
Well, it got Aqua Jet this generation. Let's just talk about that. Like, as soon as I heard that Crawdon got Aqua Jet, I honestly considered it personally. Dance. Yeah, it's Swords Dance. Not only that, but as a VGC player, I considered it over Feraligatr because I ran Feraligatr for many years. And the fact that it has adaptability, a banded adaptability Aqua Jet, let's talk about some raw force right there.
Yeah, and then they're bringing up knockoff too because you basically have an incredibly powerful adaptability regular stab knockoff. It hurts pretty much anything that wants to switch in that could lose an item.
Yeah, what is
except for like Mega Aggron or something like that.
Dark Lord says that banded knockoff Crawdon one-shots Agislash. My only curiosity is that when it's in Blade form or when it's in Shield form?
I almost think that might be in Shield form.
If that's in
to be completely honest. Like, if I could freaking pull the damage calcs, I would do that.
Yeah.
I should probably do that.
Is there a damage calculator even out yet?
I think Showdown has something like that. I will try and find it, and I will link it or whatever.
That would be awesome if you could.
Yep. But, anyways.
Shield form. Wow.
Oh, it's Shield form. I thought so. I'm thinking you could pretty much kill Bladewoman with anything, really, but...
Just breathe on it and it would die.
True that. Damage count. Let's see. What else is what's kind of out there right now?
More worthy things, I guess, speaking about. Aerodactyl, Ampharos, Bayonet. I'm only bringing those up because they all have megas. Chansey, that'll be interesting to see.
Well, Chansey was like put on that list to possibly get banned BL. So that kind of goes to show it's having the same impact as it did in Generation 5 when she was in UU. And it still has the same problem. Knockoff is a thing. It's still a problem.
Yeah, knockoff getting this boost. It should be interesting to see how Chansey's going to be able to handle that because that could really put a dent in her.
Agreed. Especially because you have stuff like Crawdon that it can boost its attack too. So you're going to have a really hard time switching in after that.
Definitely. Chesnaught. I think Chesnaught's going to... I'm waiting to see where he's going to go, honestly, because he's got a pretty interesting ability.
His move pool is interesting. It's low, but it kind of works. He kind of has enough for what he needs. He just doesn't have like a lot of extra options. That's just me, though. I mean, from what I've seen, it's mainly like physically defensive with spikes, leech seed, spiky shield, and hammer arm. Mm-hmm. That's mainly the stab that it has. And I guess that kind of makes sense. I mean, I never understood why people don't even run, haven't even considered Seed Bomb. You can maybe run Seed Bomb and Hammer Arm. You can have spikes and Spiky Shield if you don't need the extra lead seed recovery or something like that. I don't know. I think that's still really good to pass up. It's not too. I don't know. It might be too good to pass up.
All right. I'm just kind of looking throughout more down here. Big threats from UU from last generation that have kind of moved down. Darmanitan, Empoleon, Hippowdon, who was OU at one point, Mew, Nidoking, Reuniclus, Rotom Heat.
Reuniclus is a big one because it's arguably. I think that's kind of an underrated threat too. Because in essence, yeah, the typing isn't the best, but the thing is really bulky. You get up a couple of Calm Minds, and it's over.
Yeah, I mean,
over.
I had a hard time dealing with it. I think it's mostly because I played Stall, and literally Reuniclus would just shit on Stall. Reuniclus is like every Stall team's worst nightmare if they are not adequately prepared for it. I can tell you right now.
Chronos base speed, isn't it like base
55?
55?
It's 55.
Yeah, it's like 55, which isn't great.
Nidoking,
Sticky Web.
Tornadus, Therian.
That's a big jump.
And it's amazing to see how so many weather-reliant Pokemon have come down. Like Toxicroak has dropped. Tornadus T, I think, is the biggest one because it literally went from Uber to potentially in the UU tier right now.
Yeah, same tier. Heck, regular Tornadus is in there somewhere as well. So
is he?
It's I think regular Tornadus.
I haven't run into him yet.
He's in UU, but I just never see him at all. It's mainly the Therian. It's generally better for what you needed to do. I mean, you can set up manual rain, but Drizzle's banned from the UU, so you can't even rely on that anymore. And
so
that's kind of a big
Drizzle
deal.
right now, or all weather?
Pretty much Drizzle and Drought.
All right.
I believe Sandstream's still allowed, and I guess it's just because you don't have as many abusers of it. Sandville's banned and stuff like that, and I don't know how many people are actually going to use Stoutland to abuse Sand, especially when Sand only lasts 5 turns now. Unless you have the rock thing to extend it, but
Smooth Rock or whatever it is.
Yeah, the Smooth Rock. I don't know if people should even do that. It's just kind of weird, really, how it kind of...
Yeah, the weather nerfing is definitely interesting.
And, obviously people were just like, yes, weather nerf, awesome, and some people didn't care that much.
I think a lot of people were waiting for that weather nerf, because I remember there was a 4-month Smog
I was
talking...
I was here and there with it. I occasionally used it, but I was just I think it's just because when you have abilities that only the title legendaries have, the legendary Pokemon have, that's kind of a big deal. You give it to 2 kind of obscure Pokemon, and all of a sudden you see them everywhere, and you have Weather Wars, and you have weatherless teams that could counter it if you have stuff like Heatran for against Sun teams and stuff like that.
I guess that's something I'm really disappointed about, because Sun finally got the buff it needed. It got Fairy typing. That's all Sun needed was some kind of Dragon Resist, barring Heatran. And it's just kind of a shame to see that Weather got nerfed when Sun finally got what it needed. I would have thoroughly been interested.
And then Pokemon introduced in this gen that could abuse Weather obviously can't do it. You have Goodra in the OU metagame, or you have Heliolisk. Heliolisk literally has 3 abilities that are associated with the weather.
Yeah.
You can't really... The only one you could probably use is Dry Skin, because it doesn't matter if it rains up. You can still switch into Water-type moves and still heal yourself.
And then Threaten Out. So I guess Heliolisk will be interesting to watch, how that's going to play.
And I don't know. I just haven't seen Heliolisk that much. Not since the beginning of Gen 5, back when everyone was just trying out the new stuff and seeing, where it would go. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's kind of weird, to be completely honest.
Let's see. Abomasnow's in Limbo C. Azelf is in Limbo C. Interesting.
It's, I don't know, I have not seen Azelf at all. It's still good. I think it's just weird. I think it's just because things are just... It's hard to get, a free switch in, or even setting up with it, because a lot of things are really hitting hard now. And even if you're playing against Stall, I mean, T-Wave is kind of I swear, T-Wave is one of the MVPs of Gen 6 right now.
Really?
I say that mainly because, you have a few things like, Klefki having Prankster T-Wave, you have Whimsicott with Stun Spore, And the thing is, sub sweepers can't really, unless of course you're like the slower, bulkier ones that don't even care about that so much. I think the paralysis is definitely a very key element in my opinion. Especially since, the new mechanics changed to where, electric types cannot be paralyzed. So
that is interesting. I guess mechanic changes are something we could talk about too.
And then when that comes a thing, get a Zapdos, get a Electivire if you want, get Ampharos if you want. Just switching to T-Waves and you don't have to worry about that shit anymore.
Exactly.
It's kind of weird, actually.
Drowgy. I'm not really surprised, but Drowgy's hitting, Limbo C. Flygon's in Limbo C, and so is Frostlash, just because we were talking about her earlier.
I don't know. I don't know how I feel about Flygon. I haven't run into it that much. Frostlash, same with that one.
I think Flygon's just finally hit that point in its Pokemon career, so to say, where it's just kind of... It's
just not that useful
It's just not good anymore.
And there's so much... And there's just too much stuff in there right now. So you can't... It's not even a safe bet to try and use Flygon as your Choice Scarfer.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can just use other things with the Choice Scarf to sweep teams, and yeah, Flygon may still be one of the best U-turners right now, but I don't know, I just don't think it's as useful as it used to be, and heck, something I really haven't seen at all, and I'm like one of the few who uses it even now, as far as like what used to be pretty good and in the underused metagame, Registeel.
Yeah.
Registeel, I gotta say, for my initial thoughts about Registeel was I didn't think the Steel Nerf hurt him as much as I thought, because he, unlike some of the others, he doesn't have the added psychic typing, so he isn't weak to dark or anything like that. But the lack of dark and dark and ghost resistance, it really did hurt. And I don't know, I guess it's just that it's not like favorable to kind of use it anymore. And I'm probably one of the few who still kind of faithfully uses it and stuff like that, so I don't know.
Just other things to mention, I guess. Houndoom, just because it has a Mega. Menchow's actually in Limbo C, because we were talking about him earlier, too. Coon is in Limbo C. Zygrade is in Limbo C.
Good old Zygarde. The Pokemon everyone likes to poke fun at and stuff like that, but I think in you can actually work. Not sure how well, but I only ran into it once, and it actually gave me some trouble.
I was going to say...
Because I wasn't expecting to run into it at all.
I kind of feel like it's going to be like, if Flygon got Dragon Dance. That's kind of how I feel like this thing's going to be.
Well, it does have Dragon Dance, but the thing is, it's kind of like, well, you got to keep in mind what you're using it for. Because there's other Dragon Ground types out there right now. Even in you have Flygon and stuff like that, but I don't know. I know the coil set's probably the unique thing about it, because you can run like a bulky coil set and stuff like that with Dragon Tail and etc. For decent dual stab, obviously you're walled by certain Pokemon, but you can do a bit of shuffling. You may even put Glare on it to do some para shuffling.
That'd be interesting.
So if you could kind of do that. But, Flygon has Defog. That's actually really good. And if that might be its only saving grace, though.
Yeah, I was going to say, Flygon didn't really get anything new and special.
Except Defog. I mean, Defog's always nice, and heck, if people aren't using, like, Empoleon for that or anything like that, then yeah, I can see Flygon being used for Defog. And yes, of course, we already knew that. I mean, it didn't stop Garchomp, but it didn't stop... it didn't stop... it didn't stop Garchomp, it didn't stop Salmons, didn't stop anything else. But
yeah, this is true.
With Zygarde, it's not really that fast, and Flygon's only got base 100.
I mean, even a Scarf Flygon, if you use a Dragon Dance set, still outspeeds it.
Mm-hmm. Just because of, like, natural speed.
Exactly, just because of speed tiering. What else is worth saying here? Cabalyon's just in Limbo. We're just in the Limbo tier now. Cabalyon's down there.
I think Cabalyon's actually kind of underlooked right now. And it's actually one of the few Pokemon that can even though the Steel Nerf has happened, he can resist the Dark type stab attack.
Yeah,
and
still.
also Justified is great. I guess it's just because, well, there's just a lot of new stuff right now. Things got changed. He didn't get anything new. The Steel Nerf didn't hurt him that much, but at the same time, there's just a lot of new stuff people are using right now. And heck, some people may heck, some people were watching the stream and I might have forgotten about Kabalyn altogether.
Yeah.
I know I kind of did until like a few days ago. I'm like, oh shoot, Kabalyn.
Politoed's in Limbo.
Yep,
Raiku's
Drizzle.
in Limbo. Interesting. Oh, your Regis is also in Limbo.
Yeah, these guys were like, and that's the thing. There's like so much new additions and new moves. It's just like, well, who cares about these guys now? Who cares about Regis? Who cares about Flygon? Like the greats of past gens.
Regular Tornadus is in just Limbo. Virizions in Limbo.
Oh my god.
Zork is in Limbo.
Well, you see, because they were in UU. Freaking Virizion was quite good in UU. Well, I think it was pretty good, I think. And then Zork was interesting. It can put in work if you use it correctly, but it's weird. It's just kind of weird to see all these mons just from UU, or even though you just dropped it even Limbo. Like, what happened? Just all these new mechanics and new moves and just new Pokemon and, you know, Defog, anti-hazard stuff, Sticky Web.
Sticky Web, that's something I guess we could speak about. I actually had my first encounter with it the other day. I was running a Scarf Terrakion. I totally forgot about it, brought it in, had my ass whipped by a Gyarados.
Yeah, because, I don't know, a lot of people had a lot of hype with Sticky Web, and rightfully so, because it was a new entry hazard, and people argue it was really broken. Granted, you didn't have a lot of stuff that could use it, but the things that did were alright. Galvantula and Smeargle arguably being the best uses of it. Mm-hmm. But I guess it's just because, like, since there aren't that many mons that can utilize it, it's basically like, well, you trade in Galvantula for a Sticky Web, perhaps. I mean, that's kind of what you're doing. Half the time when you're putting Galvantula out, you're getting up a Sticky Web and then possibly dying off. So you pretty much have to keep your opponent from getting rid of them. And with Defog being a thing, it's just like, oh, well, Defog, haha, how do you like that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's like you said, it's only because there's nothing really prominent that gets it, barring, like you said, Smeargle and Galvantula. I think that's the only reason why it's okay. I think if something like, you know, this is really bizarre and out there, but I think if something like Scizor got it, just saying, I think it would be another story.
Agreed.
You know, something that's present and can do it effectively, somehow recover, or still do something after it does it.
I don't know. I don't know. It just had a lot of hype behind it, and I mean, it's still there. It's just I don't know. I just don't see it being like one of the biggest things right now. Maybe later it will, when the meta's all defined everywhere else. But right now, it just seems like people are still wanting to try it out and see how it works.
I definitely think it'll be interesting, even for slower stuff. I think some slowpokes can abuse it, and not only that, but you bring Scarfers down to just basically being useless, essentially.
As far as if they're just meant to be like really fast, and yeah, I think that pretty much does hurt a lot. I mean, you have like some power hitters that don't care that much, but obviously having the extra speed increase is always nice. Let's see.
Anything else?
As far as like Whimsicott, I guess? I think Whimsicott should be something we talk about.
Oh, yeah, because Whimsicott got that fairy buffing, didn't it?
Yeah, and I think even before, like, it was ever, we found out officially that it was fairy type. I think we found out that it was fairy type early on, and I'm trying to remember how we figured it out. I think you could run into a Whimsicott in the after game, and I think that's how you found out. And then I guess people may have found out what typing it was and stuff like that. But the fair typing, I was initially not sure about how helpful it was going to be, because I considered that, you gain that double weakness to poison, which isn't great. Obviously, you gain a weakness to steel, which again isn't great, especially in the OU metagame where they're kind of everywhere, and heck, just steel moves in general kind of being a thing. But the resistances it adds, I think it actually does help it a lot more than it does hurt, because you gain some of the better resistances like dark, fighting, you get an immunity to dragon, you have your obvious resistances to electric, grass, and water, and you could basically kind of switch into all these different types of moves and go for Leaf Seed, go for Encore, whatever you like.
The more you keep saying this now, Yusei, the more you're actually making, kind of even convincing me a little bit that Whimsicott's kind of underrated right now.
I used it a couple of times, so it's just from my observation of it, I guess, and from what I've kind of seen from other people, but it's just, yeah, I definitely haven't seen it as much as I would have thought. I think it's just because it's really difficult to use, even with the new fairy type, because for what you're using it for, it's mainly there to annoy your opponent. You can run offensive ones. I've seen people use Moonblast on it to get 2 KOs on like Latias and stuff like that, but I don't know, I just like the defensive variant just because if you're running like Wish support, like I use Whimsicott and Vaporeon, I think it's actually pretty useful. Like you can Wish past to Whimsicott and get her back to full HP, and you could still stick around a bit longer to Encore, UTurn out on the Switch.
Not only that, but Whimsicott does have access to a Leech Seed as well. I guess it's worth mentioning.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know, things still need to be fleshed out, and I think some of these mods, they'll start seeing play. And actually, I want to talk about something particularly because it was one of my favorite mods starting out, and heck, y'all know about this one in UU, Halucha. Now, I want to bring up Halucha because, heck, I've seen a lot of people talking about how Halucha should probably go to BL.
Really?
Now, I kind of see what they're talking about because the common sets like, you run Swords Dance, obviously you run Swords Dance, you hold the Power Herb, you have Sky Attack, Acrobatics, and High Jump Kick. Now, to put it in perspective, Sky Attack is really powerful based on 140 power, and with Power Herb, you get to use it on the first shot, and so you're going to do a lot of damage with the potential to flinch, and after that, your Unburden ability is going to activate, meaning you're going to pretty much outspeed everything in the tier after a +2. Now, in perspective, that's really good if you could set it up. Problem is, he's really frail. Getting a chance to set up is really difficult, unless obviously you resist an attack or they're locked into a ground move, which case, I gotta switch out because I don't want them setting up all day.
I think with the proper, even just team support in general, I think Halucha can definitely pull that off. I mean, I don't know, maybe something like dual screens. I don't know how common that is nowadays, but.
Well, the thing is, I've seen people say, you should probably get the ban to BL, but now I'm considering that this is without the flying gem being a thing.
Oh, jeez.
That's going to basically be that will be it. I can agree that it may go to BL after the flying gem gets released for him. I can see it happening, but with the setup you have now, I mean, Sky Attack is you can basically only use it once with the Power Herb, and then you're pretty much stuck on it again if you're gonna try to use it again. So you're a bit more limited there. But at least with the Flying Gem, you can use something else, a more reliable attack or something, or you can use like Encore or something. And the thing can use like Baton Pass too, so you can pass down a Swords Dance or Agility to a partner Pokemon. And people might use it for, in place of Scolipede since that's gone. But I don't know. It might be something.
Not to mention, I guess Halucha has one of the first and one of the most interesting moves. Flying Press is the first dual typing move we've actually seen in Pokemon.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I think there was just a lot of hype for it, and I don't know. I don't know how good it actually is. I don't know. It's just not. I don't think it's as good as it turned out to be after all.
Really? Yeah,
because the thing with Flying Press is Flying type and Fighting type. Now, you have problems where, you're going to hit things for similar type, but you have some weird coverage problems there. Like Rock types, they take neutral damage from that. Ghost types are immune to it altogether, so you can't even hit them with it. Because it's a base of fighting move with the Flying type being applied at the same time. And same with Steel types, you hit them for neutral. And I just don't see it being that useful. Even if, let's say, you had the Flying Gem released, I'd rather just use Encore to lock my opponent into a move they don't want to be locked into.
Wait, does Halucha get Encore?
Yes.
I guess that can give it an easy time to set up too. Then.
Now, I don't know. People are like, but mainly it's the power up set that people are trying out right now, and apparently that was kind of one of the big things being talked about right now. And I could definitely see him going away if the flying gem comes out, but for now, I just don't see it. I really don't see it yet.
I mean, because it only does get that one really heavy hit, and then after that, it's like
you get a heavy hit, and basically you're gonna be relying on high jump kick, which again, that's not. It's basically a die roll kind of thing, especially after Swords Dance. It's a freaking die roll. You either get some knockouts or you just lose it immediately. At least with Metagame, you have you don't have you don't have the fighting flying is amazing coverage wise for the most part. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, with Halucha, the move pool, it's very risky. And you could run flying press if you want to try and do that, but it doesn't have really that many good fighting type moves apart from freaking high jump kick.
It was Rodent Poison's here saying power herb plus sky attack plus unburden. That is definitely a problem.
Ha. Well, it's definitely a big deal.
I definitely can see, like you were saying, if Flying Gem becomes available, I can definitely see this thing becoming a huge problem.
Let's see. Freebutter178 says Hone Claws and High Jump Kick. That might be interesting. I'm not sure how effective it would be in comparison to Swords Dance.
Well,
but at least it does offset the accuracy of High Jump Kick.
I was going to say, you can essentially run the same set. I mean, for granted, you are stacking +1, but the fact that you can hit all your HJKs after one of those as opposed to potentially missing and having +2, I guess it's in that situation, risk versus reward. I mean, you can still run the same set. Instead of Swords Dance, just put, Hone Claws and still have whatever the power herb and still, do the sky attack. I mean, it's the same thing. That just actually sounds more lethal, to be honest.
It's true. I mean, I guess it's player preference at that point. Do you want immediate raw power, or do you want more accuracy? It just depends on what your team looks like already. If you need this just to sweep, I would obviously run the Swords Dance. If you need a late game setup thing, if you've weakened them enough to the point where I can just pick them off with the high jump kick after Hone Claws, then that'll work. But I don't know. It's definitely player preference.
Yep.
I just think more people are just it should get banned. I don't know. I just don't see it right now.
Again, I think we're still in a baby phase of the metagame. I think it just needs a couple more months to kind of level itself out, get a tiers actually set at the moment, and then find out. Yeah,
this is especially true because, Pokemon is released and stuff like that, so now we're starting to get more into that and stuff like that. And my phone is going off, but I will.
Yusei, this is something I actually wanted to talk to you about. Let's talk about the first OU suspect going on right now.
Yes, the 3 Pokemon. Well, yeah, I guess 2 and an item, technically.
Yeah, Lucario Knight's up for suspect, Genesect once again, and D-Speed is up for suspect. What are your opinions initially?
Mega Lucario, I see why people want. I don't know. I'm kind of mixed on that.
I'm on the whole Mega Luke has to go hype train.
I'm mixed on it just because I haven't run into it that much. So it hasn't been a problem, but I guess it kind of was when I did run into it. Now I want to make note that a lot of people talk about how it's easy to deal with. In a way, it depends on what you have and what you're using against it. Because countering it is one thing. Checking it is easy. Countering it is another, and that goes to the whole topic of countering stuff. You have to keep in mind what can actually counter something. With Mega Lucario, I know a lot of people are running the Nasty Plot set, which is kind of harder to wall in some ways. But at the same time, if that becomes more popular, then, we can just run the physical set instead. And it will still do just as well, if not.
That's where people start to argue, because it has everything it needs to essentially sweep. I mean, you have adaptability. Never mind adaptability close combat. Let's just talk about adaptability bullet punch at +2. You have extreme speed for the stuff that you can pick off and has priority.
Like Gyarados.
Exactly.
Or Scizor.
Mega Luke just has everything it needs to end lives, ruin teams. I've literally had my whole team just swept off by Mega Luke because I have nothing for it.
Yeah, at least with something like Mega Pinsir, you can wall it a bit easier. But again, it's still really dangerous. But Mega Luke, I definitely, I'm I'm kind of on it, but at the same time, I haven't run into it that much, so I can't say too much. But I have seen it sweep a lot, and it definitely causes me problems. And I ran into it in a Wi-Fi battle like a couple days ago, and yeah, I actually messed up. I made a misplay against it, and I lost. I probably could have dealt with it, but yeah, I messed up, so I lost to it basically. To it, and like, I don't know, my opponent's team was just like really good. He had like Aegislash, Mega Lucario, High Dragon, Garchomp, Rotom Wash, and like something else. But the team just seemed to cater to Mega Luke really well. And the things you could try to hit him with, I could just switch into this instead. It's so hard, and it's so hard to like, is he going to set up on the switch, or is he going to just flat out attack?
And then it becomes the mind game at that point, and you're down to...
I really hate the mind games with that thing.
No, I really do too. I hate mind games anytime.
Yeah.
But, I guess... I don't know. I want Mega Loot to go. I don't think it should be around. I can too.
Even though I kind of think Genesect probably... I don't know. I don't know what I want to go away first, to be completely honest with you, even though I've been using Genesect a couple times.
What do you think about Genesect?
Genesect, I think he needs to go. Not because he wrecks my team all the time, and it hasn't happened as much as it used to, but it has the same problems as it was last gen. It's basically the same issue. Yeah, the steel nerf is there, but I don't think that's relevant as much. I mean, you could still switch into Dragon type moves. You could still hit fairies with Iron Head. You could still just get that download boost. You can U-turn.
I mean, that's all Genesect was. I came in and I started playing singles in the Genesect meta. That is when I began. And one of the reasons I stopped was because I kind of realized, even though I was beginning, I was like, this thing, all it does is U-turn out and gets you initiative. That's all it does. Like, I mean, I didn't really know what I was doing, but all I could tell was that Genesect was just an easy way to pivot.
Exactly. Definitely an easy pivot, but I don't know. I think it's just like not so much the problem with Rotom Wash. It's pretty much in the same category. You can pretty much throw them in almost any team that you like, except maybe like some other weird obscure stuff. It just doesn't work at all. But again, that's very rare. It's just a really good offensive pivot. Bug Steel is always a great type, even with the steel nerfing being applied, and it still does the same crap as it did last gen.
Not only that, but now it has Shift Gear and E-Speed and
Blaze Kick. Yeah, you can run a full-on physical set now.
Shift Gear is...
I can't believe that. It gets that move.
Shift Gear Genesis, it got literally one of the best boosting moves in the game.
Yeah, now you have to kind of predict if it's going to have that, or if it's just going to be like the special attacking one.
Well, you can kind of predict it because it has to be shiny to have Shift Gear. So, I mean, that is sort of predictable, but there are the people who will troll you and run shiny Genesect just to be a Scarf set or whatever. That's
exactly how it's going. That's exactly what I thought. That's exactly what I'm thinking about. Is just people control you for days with that shit. Or they'll all be shiny, and then I can't tell anyways, because they could be Shift Gear, or they could be running a different set altogether. Mm-hmm. So, there's that problem, too. And then I don't have much to say about Genesect. I used him a couple times. He looks cool, but he needs to go. Him and Mega Luke. The Deoxy Speed, not sure about that one, actually.
Rodent Poison saying Shift Gear is forced to run Hasty. That's actually not even a bad thing at all, because then Genesect can run a special move if it needs it. Can run like Flamethrower or something like that. I mean, I don't know what the Shift Gear set is, but I'm just thinking from the Uber set. I always used to run Hasty Scarf whenever I did run Genesect, just because I needed Ice Beam on it. I mean, that's not a bad thing at all.
That's true. I mean, if there's just like something particular that walls you need Ice Beam, you just need there you go, have Ice Beam, and problem solved.
Exactly. It's not like you're stuck being like Adamant or Jolly or something.
And Expert Belt. I've been seeing a lot of that.
Yeah, E-Belt. That was a common set with it. It was
like the Choice Scarf set is like not even there anymore. Deoxy Speed.
D-Speed.
Yeah, I don't got much to say about that.
Yeah, I don't have much to say on D-Speed right now.
Do I think it needs to go? Not yet. Not yet. I think main priority is either Genesect or Mega Luke.
I feel like this is going to be kind of like that Keldeo suspect when it got thrown in with, I think it was Torn T and everyone. And it eventually did get its own suspect because it just got, people claimed that it got thrown into a groove that didn't apply to it, even though I was like, no, Keldeo can stay. I thought Keldeo was fine, to be honest, but I feel like that's where Deoxys Speed is. It's kind of thrown into a suspect that it's not really relevant to, so to say, because if you just look at Mega Luke and Genesect, we're talking about two offensive powerhouses that hold their ground.
To be fair, you could technically use Deoxys Speed in combination with Mega Luke if you wanted to.
Or someone said that because I was reading the whole argument on it the other night, and someone was saying that D-Speed and Mega Luke kind of hold hands. But then, if that's the case, one could make the argument that Deoxys Defense should also have been suspected too.
Agreed. But I guess it's just because that's seeing more play at the moment. I guess that's kind of why.
I mean,
eventually he'll go to, probably. If Deoxys Speed gets banned, well, Deoxys D will probably be suspected next.
I was going to say, I don't think the problem is, D-Speed or D-Defense. I think the problem is Mega Luke, because Mega Luke is abusing their ability to set hazards. Because
that, and even without him, it's hard to just tell what it's going to do half the time. Even if you think you know, your team may not be catered for it. And I feel like that's always going to be a problem with that kind of thing. But I think what really breaks it, not so much the increased attack, because, I mean, most Megas kind of have that. Mm-hmm. It's the fact it had a speed increase. Regular Lucario had a base 90 speed. Now, it's good, but not like the best. It can't sweep all the time because base 90 isn't the best. Mm-hmm. With Mega Luke, it's got base 112 or something crazy?
Base
like
112, something solid like that. The fact that you outspeed Terrakion.
You outspeed the things that outsped you in the past, and you could hit harder with adaptability and whatever boosting move that you like. Mm. That's not good usually.
No, generally it's not.
That's generally pretty bad.
Yeah, my opinion out of the three, Luke should go. Genesect, I'm on the fence right now, but I think it should go personally. D-Speed, I think D-Speed should stay for now until it becomes more prevalent. Yeah, until it becomes more prevalent.
Mm-hmm. So Mega Luke, then Genesect. Yeah, I mean, I'm more or less like Mega Luke, even though I've been kind of off and on it. Mm-hmm. It's mainly them.
All right. Is there anything else you want to say, Yusei?
Let's see. There's, I don't know, this, we haven't talked about Aegislash, but I don't know if I want to talk about Aegislash or not. There might not be that much to say about him, but there kind of is.
I mean, he definitely holds his position well. That I will say.
And I don't know, the thing with Aegislash, it turned into, for me, well, this is kind of, I'm not saying, it's a personal thing, but it's turned into it turned from really awesome idea to one of the most annoying Pokemon I've ever run into in my life. I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden just crap, I can't deal with it anymore or not as easily as I would like. Because it used to be, everyone was running the Swords Dance set back in the olden days of Gen 6.
The very beginning.
Yeah, the very beginning when it's Swords Dance, that's amazing. You can boost his Blade Form's amazing attack even higher, and you can just do a lot of damage. Of course, this will shut down with shit like Will-O-Wisp, and you're not fast enough to, take them out before you get burned with it. And yeah, the mix set the special attack set just it's even more dangerous than that. Now you don't have to worry about burn crippling you too much. Yeah, it'll hurt, but it's I can still hit you really hard with Shadow Ball.
Yeah, I was going to say, I won't lie, I was actually waiting to see how many people would catch on before they send it mixed, because one of the original comments I think I made to someone, I don't remember who, but I said, why is everyone overlooking that 150 spec attack?
I think it's just because there isn't much for it. There's not that much, but Shadow Ball,
but that
might not be all you need.
Exactly. The fact that you have the potential. You're sitting there with a Pokemon with 150 in both attacks, and even if you only need one special move, the fact that you can go mixed, I would be running mixed right out the door, Yeah, especially if Will-O-Wisp is such a common thing. I mean, you can still run Swords Dance, but it just, I don't know, I just don't think it's as reliable. Especially since King Shield can't block Willow. Yeah, that's kind of annoying. But I guess it's also one of the good things that makes King Shield not that great, so to say.
Well, it balances it out that way.
Yeah.
because getting the attack drop on any contact moves is really good, obviously. And I mean, the name kind of gives it away. It plays mind games all the time.
It really does.
And I don't know. I just always have trouble with it just because I guess it's just because I don't run into it that much. And when I do, it's like, wait, crap, what do I do? Because, there are like mons like Mandibuzz that can deal with it really well, but sometimes I don't have Mandibuzz. Sometimes I have like Meloetta, and maybe that's my only answer to it.
Yeah.
Reliable answer, I mean.
Free Butter said, weakness policy makes Aegislash very versatile as a mixed sweeper. That's very true. I ran into weakness policy Aegislash the other day, and I was like, oh god, I have nothing.
Yeah,
I mean, it has priority. It has a great typing still, even with the nerfing that happened. It's just... in my eyes, Aegislash is one of the best things out there right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is just... I don't know.
I'll be interested to see... Because I said from day one, I'm pretty sure Aegislash won't stay in OU. I'm still kind of riding that horse. I've been like sticking around.
It's a very weird situation.
I was going to say, right at this very moment, I don't think he would go. I think later in the metagame, when people begin to realize it, that there's not a whole lot out there, I think it would not surprise me if Aegislash eventually came up on Suspect. That's all I'm going to say right now.
This is true. And this is just because it's when you have Pokemon that you need like specific Pokemon to deal with them, and heck, sometimes you're not like running them all the time, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's like with Megaluke, there might be a counter to it, but it's not conventional. Like, it's like running Golurk for Choice Banded Terrakion. Are you really going to use that otherwise? Are you really going to use it in OU just because of Terrakion? Not saying, Terrakion should get banned or nothing, but when you consider that kind of logic, it just doesn't work. You say, we could counter it with such and such, but there's only a few reliable answers to it right off the gate, especially if you're... I don't know, this is especially true if your team can't use them that well, or if they just don't synergize with your team.
I mean, not only that, but just even Aegislash's ability. The fact that it can literally go from offense to defense, literally in one turn.
True that. Because...
it has everything it needs. Aegislash is like the book definition of the perfect Pokemon, essentially.
And the thing is, I think I don't even know if I brought it up or even other people brought it up. I'd say he's one of the reasons why the Steel typing got nerfed in the first place. Because if you look at his Steel Ghost typing, it's just an amazing type, and it's just like if you didn't have the Steel nerf there, it would be even more annoying to try to kill because you had you'd have a neutrality to Ghost and Dark.
The only thing you can hit it with is fire or ground.
Fire and ground. That's not a lot. And you can put, you could pair it with Hydreigon, and basically he covers those only weaknesses. But that's basically how it works. It's, I guess because the meta's still evolving, maybe eventually, it may not be so broken anymore.
Maybe,
but
who knows?
Really good.
But like I said, it would not surprise me if it came up on Suspect, and that's all I'm going to say about Aegislash.
Agreed. Now, one thing that I need to bring up real quick before we end it off is that this whole Mega Pokemon banning thing, I don't know about, it seems to be like a pattern. Like, we've seen in the UU, like we talked about the Gardevoir and Metagame possibly getting suspected, but when they go, what's next, do you think? Or something like that, or in OU, what got banned? The Kangaskhanite?
Yeah, and the Ganganite.
Yeah, and then now we have Mega Lucario. I mean, I can almost guarantee Pinsir might be next if we're going to keep going down the list of overpowered Mega Pokemon. But then the problem is that, we're going to start banning all the broken ones one by one, and eventually you're not even going to have remotely good ones. You're not even going to have, you're not even going to have a Mega Gardevoir. You're not going to have a freaking Mega Absol. Because, oh my god, they're too broken. Or Charizard. I don't freaking know.
Charizard Y. A lot of people have been complaining about that. I haven't had a problem with it yet. But
I can see why people have a trouble with it. It's just because you have Instant Stun, has really good special attack. It still gets walled by common things, but of course if you don't have them, you're going to have a lot of trouble. You're going to have a bad time.
Mm. Alright, so I think that's it.
Yeah.
Alright,
We can always pick up again later on.
I guess this will be the end of the first podcast, but before we go, my Twitch viewers, if you guys want to ask questions, relevant stuff, please. We'll try to answer them. So go ahead. Yeah,
because there's probably stuff we missed, and fair enough, because there's just like a lot of stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot going on right now. Oh, Free Butter actually brought up to the Mega Charizard thing. T-Tar is a good check to it.
That's true.
That's true. I mean, the only problem I could see with that, though, is that if you switch in on the Mega Evolution, the sun goes up and you lose your sand and you're going to get blasted in the face with a Focus Blast or a Solar Beam.
Agreed.
That's the only problem I can see.
So it's more of a check in that case?
I guess. Well,
semi-counter?
You kind of have to let something die, essentially, first before you bring in T-Tar, or make something take massive damage.
Then that's not a counter, because you can't get a free switch into it, basically.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. You never came back to... Dwarf 32's... Then we never came back to Bisharp. You know what?
Were we ever going to talk about Bisharp?
You know what? To be fair, we should do this. We should finish talking about Bisharp before we end it off. I think that's the smart idea.
Might as well.
And we just dropped it.
Yeah, we kind of did. Okay, let's talk about Defiant, for one. The fact that we now have Defog being the buffing new Rapid Spin kind of thing makes Bisharp a threat, because you can't Defog as freely, because it'll come in, get the Defiant boost that's +2, and then unless you have Magnozone, like I was saying earlier, you know,
you'll have some trouble.
Yeah, you're gonna have some trouble.
And it's also a way to it's another way to attack Aegislash, because if it goes for King Shield and you go for the knockoff or anything like that to knock it out, the King Shield won't do anything. It basically, you'll lower your attack by 2, and you'll go back to up by 2 because of Defiant.
So,
you basically have the anti-King Shield Pokemon, basically. Not that and Earthquake users, of course.
Not only that, but like you were saying earlier with the Steel Nerf, Bisharp isn't really affected because it still resists Dark, because I believe Dark resists Dark, and I know for a fact that Dark resists Ghost. Yeah. So Bisharp.
Yeah, him and Kabalyn basically, and Lucario, they're like the only Pokemon that have the Steel type and that can still resist whatever Steel could resist. And now they just don't have a quad resistance to it.
Yeah.
But it's still enough, especially when the Ghost type attack is just really good right now.
But no, I mean, I guess because we were talking about Aegislash earlier, I guess Bisharp is a check to some extent.
Yeah, like if you get a free switch, you can. I think you can knock it out.
Yeah,
and like a +2 knockoff or something that, especially if they try to switch in on you. So, of course, it makes the point of, well, what does it really counter, or is it a check? Depends on the situation, I guess. But I guess generally this is more of a check, because I think if you're not at
you say
+2, you're not knocking it out through King Shield, then you get knocked out with Sacred Sword. Yeah. Hold on.
Oh no, you just kind of buzzed out there for a second.
I hope my mic isn't giving up.
No, it's more just the connection between us.
Yeah, but destroys the Lattes. Yeah, they go for Defog. It's just like, nope.
Yeah.
+2, Pursuit, Sucker Punch. Yeah, Pursuit just knocking it out anyways.
That's a benefit.
Ooh, and hitting fairies for stab. That's right, because Ironhead, you can actually use Steel type moves now with Sucker Punch. It's not resisted by much of anything, really, except other Bisharp, other stuff like that.
I mean, I wonder how long. I'm just kind of curious because, you know, like you're saying, Bisharp checks Bisharp. I've seen a few of them run low kick and stuff like that.
You could do that, I guess. It just depends on how popular Bisharp gets.
Yeah.
Because he just moved up to OU, so...
Oh, this is recent, okay.
Yeah, he just moved up to OU. He was in UU. He wasn't banned. He got enough usage in OU to move out. So we'll have to see just how popular he gets, especially with the advent of Defog and stuff.
Definitely. All right. Any other questions? Comments?
Yeah.
Brick Break. Yeah, I guess there's Brick Break. I don't know. The only reason I would say low kick would be just because, you know, weight of Pokemon. Because there's some Pokemon. Yeah, Heatran could definitely, I think Heatran takes more from low kick than it would Brick Break.
Yeah, I can see it being more used in OU because there are more Heatran, there's more Scizor.
It's more just heavier things in general.
Agreed.
Alright. I'll give a couple more seconds for questions here, I guess. What about Heliolisk? We talked about Heliolisk.
I don't know, he got a lot of use, and then he just kind of dropped out of favor. You might see him sometimes because of dry skin, but I don't know, it's just like permanent rain definitely would have helped. It would definitely see more play then.
Yeah, I think if weather stuck around and was as good as
it
it
would
was...
be a great, great Pokemon for the rain teams in general.
It could even help other teams that suffer with water problems, or just rain problems in general. Infernape. Now Infernape is in the same boat of Bisharp not being weak to Fairy. Yeah, that's true, because Fire does resist Fairy. I won't lie, I'm still shocked that Infernape is OU. Won't lie.
Well, it's still Infernape. I mean, he still does what he does. Choice Band, Close Con, Flare, but it's Choice Bandanape is still really good, and it's really fast. So, I mean, you still have that option, even though Fairy types do exist.
No, I mean, he still makes for good boosting, too. Nasty Plot, Swords Dance, that's not bad at all. Backed by 108 speed, solid.
Yeah, and I guess it just goes it goes to the whole point of, well, just new potential sweeping threats and whether or not you're going to use Infernape for that. No, it's really up to the person, really. It seems very difficult to do that. Getting a free setup and being able to sweep with Talonflame around. And that's the thing, too. Talonflame is one of the biggest impacts to the OU metagame just because of priority Gale Wings
Brave Bird. I mean, who would have ever thought a move like Brave Bird becoming priority? Like, that's just scary. I mean, I guess...
And especially on a Pokemon that didn't seem to be great initially when we first knew about it.
I mean, I guess the only thing that I'm thankful for out of all of that is the fact that Talonflame's not backing, like, something, I don't know, like 100 base attack. Let's be thankful it's only, like, 86 or whatever it is.
And it's more or less going to be like a checked or count. It's going to be more like a check or counter to particular sweepers in the game. And I think that's good. Even though some could argue that it should get banned. I don't know about that, actually. And priority Roost and...
I think Talonflame will do just fine in OU.
Yeah, and being a fire flight types has all of its basic weaknesses.
Yeah, Stealth Rocks.
Rock types. Very good rock types like Rhyperior and Tyranitar.
Yeah. Terrakion, even. Not giving Gyarados Crunch. Making Gyarados, I feel, is a slight waste for Game Freak not giving Gyarados Crunch. That's kind of true. It's got Dark Pulse, though!
Don't see much appeal with Mega Gyarados besides the Mold Breaker.
I mean, I think Water Flying just in general is a better suited type for what it needs to do.
It's really... Because the thing is, the added Dark typing, it doesn't do much to help it. You now have added weakness to U-Turn and Mach Punch.
And you're not immune to Earthquake anymore. I mean, I don't know.
It just doesn't help unless you have to be using it for a specific set or something on it. Otherwise, it just doesn't work.
I feel like Mega Gyarados just has yet to found its niche.
Yeah, pretty much like most of the other Megas. I mean, you can only have one, so it's like you gotta figure out, well, if you're gonna use it, well, you better use it for a very specific reason. Otherwise, it's just like use a different Mega, because it's probably gonna do something better.
All right. Any other questions?
Yeah, because I think.
I mean, what other Megas have we talked about, actually? Yusei?
What other Megas?
Mega Alakazam.
Not much. I don't have much to say about it. It gets Trace, has a higher special attack.
It's really fast.
This is true. Arguably, regular Alakazam is better in most aspects.
Yeah, because of Magic Guard and whatnot.
Magic Guard and, well, considering it depends on what you're trying to use it for. I would probably use... Well, if I'm wanting to use Trace, I'll just use regular Gardevoir. Because you can at least run like a decent bulk on it and you be fine there, and having the fairy typing is also good.
True.
But, so yeah, but we're going with Trace. I don't know. Not sure how I feel about Mega Alakazam.
Wait a minute, hold on. Mega Luke is banned. I'm in the voting group and the number is high enough.
Ooh.
So
it's
this
cool.
just in...
So it's pretty much...
Mega Luke is apparently banned. We have someone on the stream right now who participate in the suspect.
According to Rotom Poison on our stream.
And apparently Genesect is close to being banned at this time as well.
It's pretty much leaning towards getting banned.
Wow, this is interesting.
I'm not surprised at this.
Yeah, it's interesting how just maybe 20 minutes ago we were saying how
it could possibly go, and I've had some trouble.
Yep, it's interesting how quick stuff changes like that.
Although some people can complain that I don't know, the way it's set up isn't perfect, and fair enough, I guess. It does seem like things are getting banned pretty fast.
Well, it's at the beginning of the metagame, so everyone's kind of ban happy at the moment.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of a problem there, but they gotta do what they gotta do in the early stages.
True. Alright, anything else, anyone? Because then after this, I'm just gonna go back to my normal stream.
Agreed. And I think there's stuff I need to do, so...
That's fine.
Yeah, I'll probably still be at the stream and stuff like that, but yeah, more Pokemon battles. That's kind of another reason why we're here anyways.
Alright.
And then if you guys have questions, put them in the comments and we'll discuss them next time we do one of these.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, because we may have missed stuff.
Yeah, and, maybe we'll do this like another month when usage statistics or more suspects happen. I guess kind of like a Wild Spade podcast kind of thing. It could be the Speed Boost podcast.
Yeah, the Speed Boost podcast.
Speed Boost podcast! I like that! Speed Boost podcast. It's been decided.
All right, we can work with that. That's a great name for it.
Podcast. All right. What about Mega Heracross? I guess this will be our last one. We'll talk about Mega Heracross real quick.
Because he got recently put recently put to BL. I gotta say, and I'm so glad that happened. Because the thing is really powerful. Having Skill Link is really good.
The fact that they gave him all this skill linkable moves too.
Yeah, getting Pin Missile and Bullet Seed and Rock Blast. That's ridiculous. I mean, it pretty much that's like great coverage right there in a nutshell.
Yeah.
And you maybe could add Earthquake if you want, but it's like, it covers the most ground, and it's hard to switch into.
I was gonna say, the only downside, I guess, is that,
he's really slow.
Yeah, he's pretty slow.
But in the UU metagame, it's just like, it's too good. Your walls can't really handle it efficiently. You have to basically revenge kill it, and that's it.
I like Heracross, but he's weird in that he is totally different from normal Heracross. That is true. Mega Heracross and Heracross themselves are like two completely different playstyles, so to say.
Yeah, one wall breaks, and then the other can do whatever it wants, basically. He can be a Scarfed, he can maybe be a substitute set, although they can both kind of do that.
I don't know. I think Mega Heracross... I don't know if it'll find its way into OU, but I think BL for now is a good home for it.
Agreed.
Alright, I think that is everything. So, thank you everyone for listening, both on the stream and if you're watching this on YouTube, thank you for listening. I guess we'll do this when Yusei and I want to do this again.
Mm-hmm.
So, thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll put Yusei's channel down in the description. You guys should all go check him out. He's an awesome dude. And yeah, I think we're done here. So, until next time, guys. Later.
Peace.